talking to Jane Frankland. Jane is a cybersecurity specialist. She's an entrepreneur and she's a writer. And she's been working to better the world by training and educating business on cybersecurity. Now, she focuses specifically on gender inclusion in science through her Insecurity movement, which she founded herself. She's also working to create a more gender-balanced workforce to enable greater security, innovations, and all-round happiness. So welcome, Jane. You're an inspiration to me. You're an inspirational creator. Your Insecurity movement, the keynotes that you do around the world, and of course your book, Insecurity, they're all been fantastically inspirational. So I'd really like to know now from you is, tell me a bit more about your creation process and what's happening for you right now.
Yeah, thanks, Debs. It's so good to be talking to you. So for me, I typically create quite purposefully, if we're talking about business and things like that. So I'll give you an example. Recently, we're going through the COVID-19 at the moment, and the beginning of the year, actually, I started off creating a mastermind. So this was called In Profit. It's still there, it's still going. And then COVID-19 happened. I can't. Waffle. Okay, let me just think how I'm going to go into the creative process. I think I start with a goal. So it's just for me, right? So yeah, so I can just go straight into it, can't I? Because you can edit.
Absolutely.
So really it starts with a goal. So I'm very, very goal orientated, and I'll give you an example. So I had to pivot my business this year because of COVID-19 and everything that was going on, and took me by surprise, like most people. But I needed to, when pretty much every bit of income stopped because of COVID-19, people started panicking. People started saying, well, let's just hang on to our money for a moment. Let's do it next month. Let's do it in a week or whatever. Let's see how this goes. It was very much like that when COVID-19 hit, round about towards the end of March, mid-March to end of March. And so for me, the first thing that I did was kind of accepted it, and then I kind of panicked, thinking, oh my god, how the hell am I gonna keep going, actually? And so the first thing that I did was I went out to my audience and started serving them, because I had lots of entrepreneurs who, some of whom were friends, contact me and literally in tears or on their knees or really, really worried, saying, how do I do this? I've got 50 quid, in my bank account, or I don't have bills, I can only keep going until, for one more month, and then it's game over, and I've got a team to pay for and things like this. All over the world this was happening. And I was taking all these calls, and I thought, okay, right, fine. I was dealing with them. I was getting them into a state where they could actually think creatively. So calming their minds, getting them away from work, and going through a whole process with them. And then suddenly I thought, you know what, I really should be doing a masterclass on this. I should be serving more people. They're not going to be the only ones struggling with this. So I created a masterclass. It was live. I got into action really, really quickly, got online, set up a sales page and not a sales page, a landing page rather, promoting this, held this masterclass, delivered great value. And then I suddenly thought, you know what, actually, I could really help myself if I actually sold something. And I hadn't done that. And it was very much a case of you stupid imbecile, you should, when you need it most, you've gone out to serve and you've not even sold. So #fail. And so I then did another one, which I'd always planned, for different time zones, so I could get, more people from around the world into it. Quickly put together a sales page, all the back end, and a program, thinking about, well, what could I offer? I thought about the conversations that I'd had, all of the stuff that I usually teach or coach and mentor, when I'm working with my clients. Put something together, delivered the next masterclass with a sales offer at the end of it, and I actually called in my energy power, which is something that, my female energy rather, which is something that I don't typically do when it comes to selling and sales campaigns. So I actually thought about, well, how many sales do I want to make? How much income do I want to bring in from this offer, this campaign, the sales campaign. So got myself into my female energy, calling it in, you know, using that power, and then went out to deliver this masterclass, and delivered it and sold a whole pile of, you know, seats. And so this workshop was happening. I brought money into my business, and then set about kind of going, F word, F word, F word. I'm going to do this in a really short space of time, because I was delivering the class the following week. So it was live. It was absolutely fine. Delivered that. It was really well received. You know, they were blown away with the value that they received from it, which made me really happy, because I've got a good reputation, and it's really important that I don't just meet my clients' expectations, but I exceed them. So I'm always driving myself in that way, deliver above and beyond, so that my reputation is always maintained, and, you know, word gets round, you know, Jane is like this, Jane delivers great value, blah, 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 blah. And so after that, I then thought, great, excellent. Now my next job is really to, rather than be constantly doing this, I've got such great content. Now I want to put it online. So I've already got some programs online. And so for me, what I did was I set about recording, you know, so scripting videos, recording videos, making all of the data sheets that I delivered, you know, for my clients, for the students of the program, you know, into like nice, and they're all polished and everything like that, and onto the learning platform. So that's kind of really how I went about creating, you know, something. So that was my last kind of creation, and that was done really, really fast. Now
I've got some questions for you, because
that
was a really fast cycle, and like one of the things that I believe is that there are 3 steps to creating something. There's the chaos phase, there's the constraints bit in the middle, and then there's the creation bit at the end. And what I can see from your process through that model is that you created something based on serving. So you already had people who loved you and trusted you and knew you, and so you created something for them because you could serve them. And it was so that your creation process was kind of almost accidental.
Absolutely.
Desire to serve. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was absolute chaos. So it was pandemonium. I mean, it really was. And it was in total, the situation was chaos, because none of us had ever experienced anything like COVID-19, but also the process was quite messy. So it's quite chaotic, you know, thinking, okay, I'm pulling this and doing this and all of that. So I completely agree with that.
And so you had, but because you've been in business a while, and you've done some of these bits before, so you were able to pull from all the different things that you'd already created perhaps and tested in the past, and then build them back into a new offering. Is that sort of how it worked?
Absolutely. And it's funny, and I know you're gonna probably not be happy with me for bringing this up, but it was the same thing with the book. So we worked together on my book. You are my book coach, excellent, and everyone needs to use Debs as a book coach. But my book happened as an accident. So that came from a blog, and then I decided to actually do a report, and, you know, thinking, well, that could help. You know, this is something that people care about. This could really help people. So let me just sort it out in a week and a half, you know, put together something that's more helpful, you know, put together these guides and things like this. And then just before going, you know, launching that, you know, to my audience, then I suddenly thought, well, maybe I should actually do some interviews, and maybe it should actually be a book. So let's go out to my market and test. Do you want a book? You know, yes, everyone wants a book. Do you really want a book? Yes. So let's test this with a Kickstarter. Yes, they do, because they put their money down. So all of that came from, again, it was an accident. So it was a lot of chaos driving all of that, which is really interesting.
I think so as well. And you said the word for me that lights me up, which is test. You tested ideas, and the only way you can test ideas is external to what's going on in your brain. And in the chaos phase, that's mostly inside here. We're sort of like, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if this would work. What about this? Shall I create a bit of this? And it's only when you go out and actually speak to somebody, or test it with real people that you know whether that's a creation that's going to have legs. So
Exactly.
when you know, when you've tested it, what's your process then? How do you continue from that?
So I'm looking for signals, and like testing is really important, and I love testing and I love doing experiments. It's just like part of who I am, and I've always usually got one on the go. But it's also important because time is, you can never get time back. So and I'm a single parent, you know, I've got three kids, you know, to support. So it's really important that I don't mess with that. You know, you can never get time back. So for me, I'm looking for signals. So what I always do is I go out online. So, you know, sometimes, in fact, I don't even, you know, sometimes, yes, I can test it with a power posse, you know, that I have. So a group of people who I really, really trust, and I wrote about in this book, in my book, but a group of people that I really trust who might have done, you know, what I'm about to do. So it could be my coaches, you know, what do you think about this? You know, I'm just running an idea past them. So I might do that first, but most of the time, because I work at speed, I'm going out online. So what I will do is, you know, put something together, like a little message. I'm thinking about doing this, you know, would this be of interest to you if I did it? So that's, and I can do that in email as well. And I have done that in email, like say with the mastermind, before I launched that, I sent almost like a one-liner through to my list saying, I'm thinking about doing a mastermind. Hit me back with a yes, if this is something that you are interested in. Like no prices or anything like that. So instantly, like, you know, however many, you know, came back in floods. So it's just like, that was a signal to me. Okay, well, that's something that you might be interested in. You know, if I do it online, usually my main platform is on LinkedIn, you know, LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram mostly, but in that kind of order. So I'll do it on LinkedIn. I'm thinking about doing this. Is this something that you're interested in? And then I look for the signal. So yes, yes, yes. And then I'll also further test by sometimes writing blogs. And then I always ask, I always have call to action. So it's just like, now I want to hear from you. You know, so it's just like, and then I look for the comments, and then I look for the golden nuggets in those comments. Well, what more? So I can refine that, you know, through blogs or through different messages. What more do you want?
You're taking all the guesswork out. So you make an assumption, absolutely, you test it, get feedback, refine the thing that people want, so that when you create something, you've got a ready-made market because you've made the market.
Absolutely. And then I further test it by offering something for sale. So often, so say like with the program that I've just talked about, which was, I called, you know, I'm useless with names and calling things. I seriously am. You know, I called my fluffy hamster when I was 11 Fluffy. But actually, it can be quite useful. So with this one, I thought, well, what do they want? So I called it client attraction 10x. You know, it's so unoriginal, but it's just like, these are mostly for entrepreneurs or salespeople. You know, this program. So what do you want? You know, you want to attract your clients. You know, you want more sales. So I just thought, don't even ask, don't even test. It's going to be called this, that, you know, I'm pretty comfortable with that. But I put together the offer, the sales. That was a further test without creating it. So again, I'm not going to spend time creating something without testing. Same with my book, you know, Kickstarter. Do you really want this? Because I'm not going to invest my time, which is money, and takes me away from my kids and all the other things that I could be doing, unless you actually put your money down. Then I will go and create it.
How do you feel in that gap between what's going on in your head in that gap between making an offer when it doesn't actually exist and getting the yes signals back? What happens next? I mean, is it exciting? Are you afraid? What happens?
Well, I've kind of grown up. So I've been in business for a long, long time. So around probably about 22 years. So if not longer. And my last company, that's kind of how we as a team often did it. So we went through a similar process of testing with the clients, you know, this is, you know, what we can do for you. Is this what you want? You know, so this is what they want and we can do it. Then we go and create. So I'm quite used to that. But this is just me. My business now is just me. You know, I do have a team behind me, but it's just me leading it. So all of that responsibility falls to me. It's not shared. So it's the same type of thing, except with, you know, more responsibility. there is fear, there is anxiety, but I use that to fuel me as opposed to stop me. So it's just like, you know, you said you're going to do it. You're a person of your word. You always deliver beyond expectations. So this has to be good. So basically trust in the process, believe in yourself, and get into activity, targeted, focused activity. Everything else has to stop. So it's things like, you know, I'm an influencer in my market, you know, in cyber and in tech, in the UK and also globally as well. So for me, it meant that I had to reduce my messaging online. So at the moment, it's just me doing this. So that meant I've got a choice. I can either carry on with all that messaging and keep on being vocal and having all these things, or I can actually get really focused. But I had to look at, this is my commitment. I've sold time. So therefore, it was a very easy choice. That stuff is not making me money. That stuff is not essential right now. What is essential right now is me delivering, you know, a really world-class program to those who've bought it. So I had to get really targeted and block out all of the noise, not answer emails that were irrelevant and things like that. That all had to wait.
So talk to me, because now you're talking, so this process of chaos, constraints, creation, you're now talking about these constraints. How do you, because like we have constraints put upon us, and we also put constraints upon ourselves. And I believe without constraints, we don't create anything of value.
Yes.
We're outside, we're just doing our
You need the container.
Yeah. Container. So
yeah.
Talk to me about your constraints, the constraints that you have put on you. You're a single mum, you've got kids, you've got responsibilities in your personal life. So you've got constraints put upon you. How do you manage all of the constraints, and how do you set your own constraints so that creation is enjoyable rather than only a responsibility?
Yeah. Well, these are like boundaries, aren't they? The constraints are like boundaries. Yep. So time is one. You know, I do have, you know, I've got my kids to like feed and everything like that, and and talk to, because they're older, so they need a lot of kind of emotional support and things like that. So I just have to get really focused about it. And, you know, what I do at the beginning and end of the day is, at the end of the day, I always kind of make my list, you know, so I don't have necessarily online tools that I do have loads of online tools, like loads and loads, but for me, I keep it really simple. So I've got my pad and my paper, and I will write down, you know, what I need to do. So it's my list, and then I'll prioritize it. So I use A, B, and C. So A are, I have to, they're like chaos, crisis, and then B's are next on the list. C's and D's, if they're there, I've got to do after. So I'll look through that, but what I try and do is keep it to 3. So what are the main things that I need to do? And as part of this whole pivot process as well, I've really realized, you know, I've taken a look at my energy, so the time constraints, my energy, what lifts me up, what am I good at, and things like that, and realize that, you know, there are only 3 things that I really need to do in my business. And the 3 things that I have to do in my business and life, really, to keep me well and performing and serving and happy and honoring myself, because that's part of the whole thing. I need to exercise on a daily basis, so that keeps me mentally strong, physically strong. Typically, I walk with my dog. I live in the countryside, so that's great. It's like meditating. I don't think, but it enables me to be really creative without having to be creative. So it's just time out, and I really don't go out thinking, oh, I've got a problem, how do I solve it? You know, just go out and kind of go, oh, my dog's bouncing through the grass, or oh, she's in the, oh, isn't it lovely? You know, oh, I can hear the birds, and I can smell this, and oh, those berries look nice. Whatever it is, you know, it's just total time out for me, and smelling the air and like absorbing everything, you know, using my senses, and it's gorgeous. I just invariably enables me to be creative, especially for writing. And
just before you go on to your other points, I think that's really fascinating, because before you talked about accidental creation, and now you're saying you actually daily, regularly create opportunities for accidental creation. So you're creating a space for the ideas to flow, and the ideas. I think that's beautiful. Sorry, what were you?
Absolutely. Walking is really, really creative. I'll cycle and things like that, and I'll do it like workouts, but walking I have to do, and it's a creative medium for me.
Yeah.
the other things that I have to do, I have to write. So, you know, I'll video, I'll do podcasts and things like that, all mediums, but writing is really important. So I am a writer, and, you know, I enjoy writing. It's my main medium. So I have to write because this is how I serve my audience. This is how they know about me, etc., etc. So I have to write, and then I have to read, because reading enables me to become more knowledgeable. And with that knowledge, then I can put it into my writings. I can create programs and courses. It enables so much more. So that keeps me learning. It keeps me fresh. It keeps me open and expanding. So those three things that I have to do on a daily basis. So these things are also constraints and they're boundaries. So I now know that, really thanks to the reset and the looking inwards that really happens from COVID-19, because this thing is something that's never happened before. It really made me stop and think, well, life is really precious, and I know that, but actually I could die. You know, it's not highly likely. It's a higher than normal probability. Yes, so I need to look at plans around all of that, and including not just pivoting my business, but actually, what do I want? You know, what makes me happy? What lights me up? You know, things that I might have been avoiding, and actually, no, do you know what? I'm going to do this because actually I like doing that, and I'm really worth something. So now is the time to actually go, no, now is the time for me to use all of these constraints and boundaries, you know, some of which are scary. So say, for example, I have avoided, or not being ready or whatever, going out and purely serving women. So it's just that I love men, and I love working with men, and I love having men as my clients and all of that. But it would have been very easy for me just to say, no, I'm just working with women. I only serve women and all of that. And I didn't want to do that. Now I am much more comfortable doing that. So it's just like, do you know what? Now I am. That's who I work with. You know, I care deeply about people, and men and women. But right now, who needs me the most? Women need me the most. You know, I'm a voice for women. I'm very well known for serving women. And, you know, and I wrote about this in the book, the equality and the equity. Women need me right now, and I can be a voice for the voiceless. And I can help more women to become role models, to increase their visibility, you know, through programs like my personal branding program and influence program, which is called In Demand 10X. Just rename that. But it really is about that. So I'm becoming much more comfortable with this boundary and constraints, which isn't all encompassing, which serves me. So I'm bringing these things in, these constraints and boundaries, some of which are quite uncomfortable for me, but I'm honoring myself, and I'm also being guided by my intuition. So again, that feminine power that both men and women have, but that typically we as women, and maybe as people, have actually avoided, you know, because everything has gone tech, everything is science, and everything, you know, everything has moved that way for many decades. And that intuition and that power has been numbed.
Yes.
And then we've moved away from that. So it's almost like an awakening. It's just like rediscovering my feminine energy, understanding it, you know, learning about it, you know, which excites me. Having, you know, been in technology and being in technology, which is all mechanical, machine, and the work that I do is with people. So understanding about this is really exciting to me, particularly as a woman.
I can relate to all of that. I mean, as I was an electronics engineer, so I can relate to being in a very male-dominated environment. And you know, I didn't do very well in electronics because I don't actually know how to shut up. So you need to actually sit down and work, and I much prefer talking to people and being with people. And yeah, so. But yeah, so I kind of hid my feminine side for a while, and now I'm quite enjoying. Maybe it's a growing older for me. I don't know.
I think a lot of it does come from that, because you kind of reach an age where it's just like, do you know what? I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm gonna be who I want to be. But there's also that value, that recognizing your value and honoring yourself, and also that discovering. And thanks to books and thanks to technology and things like that, and Google and the internet, we now have that capability. So we have all of these tools at the tip of our fingers, so we can access them. So there's so much availability, and I'm so thankful for technology and machines and all of that, and that excites me no end. But so does the awakening of the intuition and understanding about female energy and male energy, and how you need to use both energies as a man and as a woman in order to really fulfill your potential. So I find all that really interesting. So yeah, there are all those constraints and barriers. So I'm using them, and I'm having, that faith in me and that belief, which is very strong and hasn't always been like that. At times I've been tested with that. I've been knocked to my knees, and everything has imploded and shaken me. And there was a stage, in the last 10 years or so, where I had to pick myself up, literally, and I was tested to my core. And it's just like, okay, like build, get up on your feet after being knocked down repeatedly, up on your feet, and keep on building and acknowledging the process, your progress you're making, and reminding yourself of the progress that you're making, and hanging on to those little tiny wins and those small tiny steps, not quantum leaps, because the small steps lead to those quantum leaps. So all of these things help me to, as barriers, as constraints, as containers, to actually build and create something. And time is always a really good container, and that promise, because my word is my bond. So unless there is, if I say I'm going to do something, this is how I was always brought up and how I bring my children up. If I say I'm going to do something, then I do it. Yeah. So it's just, I've said, and you've bought, so I have to. So that's a really good constraint.
Do you use that as a pull constraint? So it actually not forces, but it really pulls you into creation, or do you use it as a push? Where is it? Is it a pain or a gain constraint?
It feels like a pull. Well, I don't know. It's a really hard one. Does it feel like a gain? Did you say a gain or a pain?
Yeah. So if you don't do it, will you feel bad? Or if you do it, will you feel great?
If I don't do it, I will feel bad. It's a non-negotiable. It's happening. So if I want to do it, then yes, I would feel my integrity would be questioned. I would feel I've not honored the promise that I've made. So yeah, absolutely. So therefore that would be a pull. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I think of that as a pain. So it's a push, because.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think pain constraints tend to be the ones that actually compel us to do things.
Well, Tony Robbins will say you move towards pleasure, and against with pain. So that's really interesting. So yeah, it is. But once it's like all of these things, like the signals, then the mark, then the commitment, because this is a commitment. So this is a promise and a commitment. If I don't, then absolutely, it's pain for me. Yeah.
And it's also an accountability, because I think as well, you're the same as I am, which is I feel more accountable to my own word than anything else. So if I say something that I really want to follow through on that, against everything else. Absolutely.
Yeah, your word is your bond.
Yeah.
It's that promise, and it's funny because I've got my platform coming out, which it's a mentoring platform for women in male-dominated industries, and it's called Haven. And
why is it called Haven?
It's Haven because it's like a safe place. So this is a network, for women. It's a mentoring platform for women. So women who are in male-dominated industries, or maybe about to enter into male-dominated industries, can come together and they can learn from experts like you, because you're going to be on it, how to do certain things. So there's going to be a lot of the soft skills in there. So like leadership and writing, and, how we deal with the imposter syndrome, how we deal with bullying, loads and loads of things. So, and it will also be driven by the members, so what do you want? So not necessarily a technical platform for how do I learn how to code and things like that. There can be facilities on there that can help you find resources like that. But essentially the teachings, the masterclasses that I will have will be around those areas. So they'll be delivered live, there'll be Q&As and things like that. But it's very much a community platform. So there will be this mentoring aspect, a guided mentoring and accountability. So if you're in a job, then you can, or outside of a job, you can find a mentor that is right for where you are in your career. Or you can have an accountability buddy that will hold you accountable for, say, projects that like we're talking about, you know, to help you. And then there will be a meetup side. So it's just like wherever you are in the world, if you want to go learn about this or meet up with this group of women in this country or location globally, then you can do that. So it's being a hub as well. But say with this, what I thought was, because I've been trying to launch this since last year, and it's not, for whatever reason, that's not happened, what I'm tempted to do is use a constraint like a Kickstarter project in order to do this. Because I know that if I go live with a Kickstarter, just like I did with my book, then one, it's a signal. Even though I've invested already in the platform is built. So even though I've invested money in this and time in this, et cetera, it almost needs that final push, you know, and that the constraint can be the Kickstarter. It could be the Kickstarter. That would be a really good constraint for me and push, because you set your deadline, 30 days, raise this amount of money. If you don't raise that money, then you've got to use a different tactic. But it can be really useful like this. So for me right now, because this will be a program in the near future that will be launching, do I use that as my constraint, my barrier, in order to make sure that this is created?
Yeah. And it's also a double test then, because you'll be testing.
It is.
Does the market really want it? Do they really want it? Like for your book, they put their money on the line for your creation of your book. So yeah. Exactly.
And then if they don't want it, then I'm going to get useful feedback anyway. Well, what is it that you do want? So that just means a revision of the test. So it's just like, well, okay, it might not have been like this, but it will enable me to revise it. So there's so much that comes from that.
Can I ask you a question? Because I can imagine the sort of thoughts people will be having is, you're very, very brave to test these ideas in public. So how do you feel in that process of testing?
I feel really
failed.
Well, to me, it's just a test. It's fun. It's a game. It's an experiment. So it's just, I really enjoy that because I'm so open to what it's going to be. You know, I did some research, some groundbreaking research last year, and which was all looking at women's voices. So it was looking at behavior. So in my industry specifically, in cyber, so and looking at events. So I was looking at behavior. I knew that a lot of harassment, a lot of sexual harassment was happening, but there was a lot of talk, a lot of stories. So for me, what I wanted to do was go and actually get some data. So have data-driven conversations, because there's more power in that. Also, we can measure something. So this is our baseline. This is where we are now. So what I did was I looked at behavior. I looked at women's voices, because I'd heard that conference organizers and event organizers couldn't find women to speak. Yeah, I was hearing from my female friends and peers and network, I want to speak. So let's just find out what's going on. And then what do women want when they go to events? So I did this research, and I only wanted to get 500 responses globally. Well, within 24 to 48 hours, I had 700 responses. So there are over 2,000 responses, you know, to this piece of research that I was doing. But with this, some people thought that, oh, she's trying to engineer it. You know, she wants to make the data tell her story. So she wants to engineer it and da-da-da. For me, I was so curious. It's just that I really don't know. So I want to put this out, and it's an experiment. It's a piece of research. I'm open to what comes back. To me, it's like waking up on Christmas morning when you're a kid, and you still believe in Father Christmas. I'm sorry, kids. Father Christmas, I had to say, is still alive, and so are the fairies and all that. But it's just but it is like, oh my God, you know, this is like unwrapping your present. What's it going to be? You don't know. It's so exciting. So for me, I really do there is, you know, if it's a sales offer, yes, there's that kind of like, oh my God, is it going to sell? You know, is this going to be like a sellout? Is it going to like, oh, you know, all of that stuff. So there is that excitement, you know, coupled with a bit of fear. And depending on where you are, say, with your business and cash flow and things like that, sometimes it can be a like, oh my God, you know, moment, or like, oh my God, thank God. You know, because businesses have a flow and, you know, move and things like that. So it's never static. But I do treat it like that. It's a gift, and it's exciting, and there is a bit of you know, fear and maybe a bit of anxiety mixed in with that. But by and large, I'm really open to what it shows. It's always a good thing, and I treat it like that. No, it's exciting.
I think it's really fascinating as well, because you came up with two really important things there, which is curiosity-driven testing, and then so that you can have data-driven conversations.
Yeah.
Without that data, you can't explain the world.
You can't.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated by that. And
I think, as particularly as, say, minorities, so women are a minority in our industry, particularly as a minority, you're not taken seriously. You know, so with hard evidence, with data, that is one, you know, great power source. You know, it's just that you can't argue with the data. It's just like, there you go. Here's the methodology, here's the science behind it. There you go. So it helps us, say, as minorities, you know, as women in a male-dominated industry. So depending on which research you look at, the numbers of women in, say, cyber are anything from round about, you know, 10-11% to maybe 20-24%, you know, whatever it is. But we're certainly not at the tipping point. So we are a minority in this industry. So it enables us to have meaningful conversations and to be taken more seriously.
I want to ask you another question now, slightly different tack. One of the things that that we've mentioned fear a couple of times. And I think sometimes people are afraid to put a creation out there, or to put something out there, or to put a question out there.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid, and they're afraid of the haters. Now, you've dealt magnificently with haters in the past, and I've been impressed. So talk to me about that. Does it stop you, the fear of haters? Does it stop you?
No, I mean, what really drives me is this obsession to serve. So I do know why I do what I do. And it's really important that you understand, why do you do what you do? And sometimes that takes months and months to evolve. Sometimes you might get it within, like, you might know it immediately. Why do you do what you do? I know why I do what I do. And it's quite obsessional for me. I'm so driven. And it enables me to be courageous. You know, I can't help myself. You know, being a voice, it's not about saving. I don't go in kind of, I'm going to save you. It's not. It's about empowering. It's about teaching. It's about helping. It's about breaking down barriers. It's about, come follow me. Let me push you up. Now it's your turn. So it's very much about that, and about being a voice and a role model, a visible role model to help others, you know, to pave that way for women, you know, especially women. For me, I know why I do what I do, so that enables me to be courageous. Before I was a speaker, you know, speaking, like most people, was my greatest fear. You know, apart from death. So it's just like, I'm terrified, and I avoided it and pushed everyone forward. And you be the spokesperson. It's not going to be me. I'll set everything up and do all of that, which is typically how a lot of people can be, especially women. And so I'm compelled to do these things, and serving, and it's just much easier. It's just much easier when you know why you do what you do, to be able to be courageous. Brené Brown does some great stuff on this. You know, she really does, you know, with her books and things like that. And she talks about, you know, being in the, I'm just trying to think of the phrase that she used. It's like the gladiator going into the pit. You know, do you choose today to do that? You know, so it's not that I consciously wake up every single morning and kind of go, am I ready to do it? Am I ready to fight the fight? I don't, but it is part of my makeup. It's part of my routine. I'm ready to do that. It's like breathing, you know, I'm so ready. And I also know that, you know, I do know how to do this. I have learned, made mistakes, looked at the mistakes I've made, sought guidance, read books, gone to my haters sometimes. You know, a few years ago, you know, I had a very prominent hater when I went out to fight for women, and like many others, there's a lot of misunderstanding. People bring their own stuff to what you put out there, so it's just like they don't seek to understand. They bring their own agenda, their own problems, you know, to a lot of the things that you might put out there. So when I'm dealing with the haters or those who don't, you know, necessarily, trolls, you know, haters and trolls, you know, for me, it's just like, okay, let's look to try and figure out where they are, what's gone on in their lives. I'm not a mind reader or psychic or anything like that. But it's just like to try and understand where they may be in their lives. And then, you know, you've got a choice as to whether or not, especially with a big following looking at your every move, you know, sometimes it calls for, actually, I need to deal with this. You know, I need to push back. I need to seek to understand. I need to engage in dialogue. I need to try and bring you with me if you don't understand. So there's all of that going on. But then sometimes it is a case of, no, do you know what? I might have done that once. I might have done it twice. Now it's a time for silence, because silence is also power. So you have to use the two in combination, depending on the situation. And then sometimes you can just use one-liners. So for me, one of the best one-liners that I have, which a lot of my, say, clients and students like to use, and is really puts you back in the power kind of position, because your power is never really lost. You've always got power because you are a power source, a life force. But you can just, you know, hit them with a one-liner. Your comment is very revealing, you know, so that typically say what I do. And I do really seek to understand first before putting that, because it's just like, okay, well, you know, where are you with that? And so it's just like that usually shuts them up, because they have no kind of comeback for that. And it really is, if I do use that, it is usually because I can see and read through between the lines. And it's just like, okay, right, now I know exactly where you are, you know, with this. And it's just end of. It's almost like, you know, punto, you know, the end. Bang, done, move on. And it really is, you need to have something, I think, with a lot of your communication. You know, I know we talked about the flow of communication, which would be good to bring up.
I'd like you to talk about that, because the silence is power is a beautiful statement. Talk to me about your flow of communication, because recently you've been more quiet than before. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so my kind of communication, I'm very visible and very vocal online. With my writing, say, I typically honor my creativity. You know, as a former designer and coming from an art background prior to tech and cyber, I write when I've got something to say. You know, so I don't write, you know, there are writers out there which will be disciplined, and, you know, maybe I'll move into that, you know, that kind of discipline, you know, you write when you don't want to write. But I typically write when I've got something to say, be in my bonnet. Sometimes I write because I have to write, because it's a paid engagement. But typically it's when I've got to be in my bonnet and I have to, and I'm compelled, or it's thought leadership, you know, or I've gone walking with my dog and kind of thought about something and thought, oh, okay, right, fine. This is enlightening. I need to share this. So that's kind of how I usually do it. But more recently, because of the COVID-19, because of me having to pivot my business, you know, I can't be everywhere and do everything as one person who is communicating with my audience on many, many platforms. And creating content and serving my clients, you know, through coaching and mentoring, and having these forthcoming projects on the go like Haven. There's only so much time, so I've had to get really disciplined, you know, with that. So I'm not able to do that all of the time. And that is uncomfortable for me, especially say with my tribe, because I have got a group, and it's just like it kills me not to be able to do that on a daily basis. But I've had to get really disciplined and focused and kind of say, I have to serve. I've got this push. There's a time limit. I have to do this. This is imperative for my business because I've got a family to feed and all of this. This is income coming in, so I've got to focus. So there's that going on. And there's also this other, so my time is limited from that aspect, and I've got that focus on from that aspect. But there's also the other thing whereby if right now we're seeing so much noise online, you know, people, and I've really noticed it, there is so much trash online on every platform.
Yeah.
You know, people are posting about, you know, what they're doing, you know, things that just aren't of interest, things that might not be business focused or whatever. There's so much noise, and it's hard, and harder than ever, actually, because people are furloughed, people have been made unemployed, you know, they're without jobs, people are working from home, maybe they're not as busy as they were. So you've got all of this, like everyone like piling online, you know, trying to be active and all of this. So you're trying to navigate through that. As an influencer, you know, one of the things that you can do to raise your influence even more, or to be more impactful with your message, is actually to go silent. So when everyone goes noisy, you go silent. So a lot of people have reached out. Are you okay, Jane? You know, it's like, yeah, absolutely. This is where I am. Da, da, da. So it's not been a necessarily conscious effort for me to kind of deliberately go, right, I'm going silent when everyone's going noisy, but I am aware of that. So that means that when I do write, when I do get out there with this ebb and flow that you've spoken about, people will listen more. It's just like, oh, she's back. What's she got to say? Yeah. So
I think of communications as outgoing communications, which is, I think, the noise thing that you're talking about. This is, I am communicating at you. I think of that as music almost, which is to hear the notes of the music, you need the pauses between the notes. And if you're just constantly shouting or constantly communicating, there are no pauses, there is no gaps for other people to respond. And that's what I'm seeing at the moment. It's this constant barrage of communicate, do this 30-day program of communicate. And I love that you give that silence power.
Silence is, and the same in that means that you can do that online, but you can also do that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business, with your email. Yeah. You know, so you can have, yes, the regularity of every single week, and I am a fan of that, but sometimes it can be, or there are businesses out there and marketers out there which will do it more often than that. You know, so it's almost like they launch one program, then they're into another, and it's just like constant messaging. And as a receiver of that, as a consumer of that, you switch off. Yeah. You know, so it's just like, and that I think is really true. So whether it's in your email or whether you're online, you automatically switch off because you become numb to it. Here we go again, rather than, oh, what have they got to say? Yeah. So weekly, I think, is almost like a bare, you know, it's almost like the highest flow, you know, it's like, but going longer than that is absolutely fine. But it's, I think, any more than weekly, unless you're pushing for the end of a, you know, sales campaign, then I think it's too much. It's just like overload, tune out, switch off, turn the noise down. Yeah. You know, all of that happens. So I love what you've just said about the notes, you know, the messaging and the communication being the push, the broadcast, the music. I love that. It's
nice thinking of it as music rather than as cacophony or just completely banging the drum all the time. You know, you need the sometimes banging the drum in the music is great, and other times the slow cello or whatever it is, but you need the differences, I think.
Yeah, and you know, even if you do think of writing has a flow. The longer sentences, the short snappy ones, every bit of communication that we have has that flow, has that rhythm. Yeah. I like it.
And breaking that rhythm then catches attention. So, you know, there's lots of they can play with that as a great metaphor. Okay, right. I've got a couple more questions for you because to start finishing this off. One is, you talked about so many different things you do, you know, with your platform, with the New Haven program. How do you do it all? Do you outsource? Do you do everything yourself? How do you do that?
So I'm a huge fan of outsourcing. And I typically work on the basis that there are so many better people than me. So that's my kind of natural default. And I'm not taking away from my skills or abilities and competencies, because I am really skilled at certain things. But you have to know what you're really good at. You have to know what you really enjoy. So what brings you down? I know that energetically, doing my accounts, it's like, I could do it. I'm good at it. But it's just like, no, unless the music's on, it's just like, no, it's just like, I don't want to do that. It's just like, brings my energy down. The things like dealing with email, that brings my energy down. Things like dealing with loads of messages through social media, that brings my energy down. So it's knowing what you're good at, knowing what you enjoy doing. And for me, I work on the basis, like I said, that most people are better than me. So therefore, it's a very natural and enjoyable experience. Outsource it, because you're better than me. So you can do a better job than me, which is good, because I need really good jobs to be done, because that enables my business to be better and for me to serve better, etc., etc. So that's how I like to operate. As a business that is starting out, or say with limited kind of money that is available, chunks and things like that, sometimes you have to look at it and kind of look at, well, what can I outsource now? What's the pot of money now? Where am I, etc., etc. So for me, I've done a lot of things, from starting up businesses by myself. But when the money has been there, it's always been a case of, okay, great, what bits don't I enjoy? What bits am I not good at? Can I outsource, and immediately do that? So nowadays there are some great, you've got Elance, or is it Odesk? It's all of these like platforms, available to you, where you can go and you can give them projects, and you can turn the tap on and off. So as opposed to, I'm going to employ you're full-time, or even you're a part-time employee, there's so much more available resource and ways of working for you to be able to engage and outsource your projects or assignments too. And I really love that. I like working with people in teams. So anyone that I bring on board and outsource things like that too, I usually work on the basis, you're part of my team. So I value them and treat them really, really well. All of my team are effectively suppliers. So I outsource my work to suppliers. So in that way, but they're part of my team. Yeah. So I'm helping other small businesses to operate, which is brilliant. And I have so much joy in that. And most of my suppliers are women. So not all of my team are women. Most of them are women. Most are mums. So they're finding their way and trying to work so that they can be mums to their kids and bring in incomes and things like that, which is important to me. So I'm helping them. So I do that. Right now, what I have is I have a brilliant PA or VA. I have two actually. So one who works mostly for me, and she'll do a lot of my appointment bookings. And that's for my business and also for my kids and things like that. So I'll use her to do things like that. Some little projects that she's skilled in doing, I'll get her doing work on that. If she's not skilled at that, then I will call in another resource so I can pull in someone else to do things like that. For my personal branding program and influence program for women, in demand 10x, I'm using an agency. So I've gone out to an agency, and they are doing so many brilliant things. It's like really wonderful. So they're doing my email campaigns, my sales campaigns. They're doing ads over Facebook, ads over Instagram. They're testing it. They're looking at the detail. They are really skilled at that. So I know how to do that, but I'm not skilled at that. So for me, it's just like, great, you can do it. It's over to you. And I'm so excited. Tell me what assets you need. So they might need a video, or they might need, a masterclass. They might need, a document, so a PDF or whatever it is. I can get them that. Then they just make the magic happen. So it's just great. So it keeps me really, it enables me to go out and create great programs, which I love doing. Serve my audience with posts, maybe with videos, through my tribe and things like that. But essentially they can do all that back end stuff, so they can integrate it with the software that I use. And they're experts at it, so they can tweak it and go, okay, let's like set it all up. This is going through here. The flow's going through here. They've said yes. They've said no. This is working. That's not working. And then they can scale it. So it means that I don't have to be bothered with all of that. And I'm not skilled at that. And I don't have to be skilled at that. I can keep being skilled at what I am good at. Those, say, 3 things are important: writing and making programs and serving and coaching and mentoring and listening and being attentive to my audience and hearing them and giving them what they want. You know, so that's where being a bridge is really, and that facilitator and enabler is really one of my skills, and creating the awareness and that understanding, and that's through my voice and through my talks and messages.
So basically, like, I'm going to summarize just how I see it. You use outsourcing to create the space for you to be more you.
Yes, absolutely. For me to be more skilled,
things that only you can do. So
absolutely.
You can't outsource you, but you can outsource all the other tasks around you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and it really is coming down to what are the tasks that only I could do. And yes, I could get someone to write for me, absolutely, and people do. And people, you know, will have what do they call them, shadow writer, you know, or ghost writers, all of that. That's fine. But I like my voice to be my voice.
Yes.
You know, and I enjoy writing. So I for me, it's just like, no, that's mine. I'm reasonably okay at it, and I want that to be mine. And so with the programs, again, it's like bringing in all these different, again, I could get someone else to do my programs. I could literally get someone to do the whole lot for me, and I would just be the face. Do you know, that's entirely possible. Yeah. But to me, that also would be quite almost like fraudulent. It's not honest. You know, there's no integrity. But you could quite easily do that. Yeah. You know, so for me, there are certain things that I really want to do, and you know that's why I keep those things. The writing and the program making, that's just me. Yeah, it's just me who's doing that.
One of the things that I find really difficult, and other people probably do, is when you choose to delegate tasks. So what I do with my virtual assistant is, because I'm a really dreadful delegator, I can do that faster. I'll just carry on doing it because I was doing it before. Is I pay her whether she does anything or not, and that forces me. That's my constraint.
Oh, yes,
I'm paying her, and if I don't send her work, that's my problem. That's my how I put a constraint on it.
Your penalty.
Yes,
it's a penalty, isn't it? It's a penalty. But it's there's so many ways to do that. There are even online tools that you can use. So if you commit to doing something, you can make that commitment. And then if you don't, there's the forfeit, the penalty. Yeah. I like it. I do
too. Okay, right. Final question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I would really like to know, one of the things that fascinates me is doing new things. So when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Do you know what? That is one of the hardest questions. It's one of the hardest questions I've been asked, because it's been a long time since I did something completely new. I mean, even during the pivot, it's just I've got my inline rollerblades out. You know, it's just I've got them out. I've not done that for like 20 odd years. So got them out and skating again. It's like, great. You know, got a hula hoop out the other day. Well, I actually bought one, waited, exercised, haven't done hula hooping for years. But actually doing something new, I can't remember, you know, if, you know, writing the book was new. You know, that was new, but I really can't remember. You know, in fact, there were learning new tools that are new. Yeah. And it's like, that's probably the last thing that I did. There was something new, but I feel that even saying that is not really a proper answer, because it's not like, I picked up a violin the other day and I learned how to play the violin. That was completely new. I've not done anything really new for a long, long time. And that's something that I will address, because it's just like, that's it's all great learning. Yeah. You know, but actually doing something new keeps you sharp. Yeah. And it enables you to go back to that I'm a beginner, an absolute beginner.
Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I like it. And I found myself, the reason why I started asking these questions to people is because I found myself doing the same things every day, get into a routine. And you know, everyone says, what's your morning routine? What's your evening routine? I'm like, routine. No. I need input as well as routine. And that's the chaos, the constraints to create. And I found that I was only taking in the same stuff and forcing them through the same pipeline. So I'm trying to do new things, but okay. So
it's, I really like, it's something that I am going to like look at. Okay, I need to do something brand new that I've not done before.
Yeah.
I've not done before.
Try something and then tell us what it is.
I will.
Okay. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell us?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, how do people get in touch with you? So, I mean, the Haven program, talk to us about how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Best way. So LinkedIn.
Yep.
I would say LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Some people think that they can just follow me on LinkedIn, but you can actually connect with me. So just reach out on LinkedIn. And it's my surname. So Jane Frankland. I keep it really simple. You can reach out there to connect. You can follow me if you want. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram. It's Jane Frankland. It's really simple. I've got a website, which is jane-frankland.com. So those are the best ways for you to get in contact with me.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Jane, for all your attention today, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, Debs.